Good evening, folks. Pretty bad with faith and politics Unfiltered. Happy Sunday. Tonight, let's talk about nepotism and the effects on communities. Others said extending term limits was a way to reward the city's ruling class, headed by Spano, a member of the city's powerful Spano political family. I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. How you doing this evening? Thank you for joining me. Let's talk about nepotism. So I adjust my seat here. Excuse me. Tonight, I wanted to discuss nepotism because of some of the things that have happened recently. On Friday, the individual, Stephen Dolan, who was driving drunk and killed 16-year-old CJ Hackett last August, was in court where his lawyer entered a not guilty plea. And so I, started to think about, the nepotism and, the way people are protected here. Also, people have been asking about Detective Sergeant Frank Gauldino's case and what's been going on with that. And so, I wanted to discuss it. And so I'll get into that now. I want to first talk about nepotism. What is nepotism? Nepotism is not just in terms of family, right? We think of nepotism as, you helping your family member out. But nepotism is also helping your friends out, right? It's not just limited to family. And I want to give you an exact definition here of nepotism and patronage, right? Which impacts communities negatively, the economics of a community, as well as the safety of a community. So I'll talk about that in a bit here. Nepotism, the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs, right? So relatives or friends. And we speak about the family and friends network that obviously exist here in the city of Yonkers. It's very obvious, it's apparent, and it's time that we speak out about it because it's causing us problems. It's not just, with jobs and being limited on who gets hired here in the city, but also the safety of our community members, right? So it definitely is a problem here in the city. So I want to discuss the economic impact, right? In the past 12 years, especially, we have seen an increase in nepotism here in the city. And while some may say there is nothing wrong with helping out family and friends, if you can, the problem with nepotism has proven to be both detrimental to the economy and the safety of city residents. And people say, well, Freddie, if I could be in that position too, I would help my family out. I'd help my friend out, right? So what's wrong with it? But it's not just about helping out a family member, right? It's the economic impact as well as the safety of our residents. There are several types of political corruption that occur in local government. Some are more common than others. Some are more prevalent to local governments than larger segments of government, right? And forms of corruption consist bribery, extortion, embezzlement, and grafts are found in local government systems. Right? Other forms of political corruption are nepotism and patronage systems. Nepotism is a form of political corruption. So there is something wrong with it, right? It's definitely something wrong with it. It's not just about hooking a family member up or two. And when you have a large family and you hook up a lot of them, it becomes to a point where it is now impacting the economy and creating inequality here in the city of Yonkers among residents that is very visible, especially certain segments of the population, right? Residents in Yonkers are fed up. We're fed up with this unequal and preferred consideration some get because of the connection they have to the administration, right? Other elected officials. Even worse, residents are infuriated with the protection some have received as a result of nepotism after they've caused the deaths of others. Causing the death of others with their reckless behavior because of their sense of entitlement and their sense of invincibility, right? They can't be touched. I'm connected. I know people. And besides, I've seen it happen before where someone has gotten into an accident driving drunk and they've gotten away with it. So I will too. In the case of Akeem Jamal, driving drunk after leaving, an event where the mayor was, his brother Nick Spano, other individuals. I hear they were also at John Rubo's bar, the Yonkers Brewery. And he drove down Central the wrong way, crashed, hurting an individual who sued, but for whatever reason, left out the fact that he was drunk in the lawsuit. And he was rewarded with a job, more money. His family works in the city, mom, dad, and even sister. So, I mean, that's just the, luck, I guess, the benefits, the perks that some individuals have here in the city of Yonkers because of nepotism, right? He's not related to the mayor, but he is a friend. And he also throws fundraisers for the mayor, which he recently did along with another individual who was arrested for possessing 100 grams of cocaine. And it's not anything personal to the individual. Please, I'm not even going to mention his name just because I don't want to make it personal. The point is, certain people will get away with certain things. Throw a fundraiser for the mayor, and if you have 100 grams of cocaine in your truck, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But where did the cocaine go? I mean, they have to log it in, don't they? Where did it go? Did it disappear? So I definitely believe nepotism is a problem. Inside Yonkers says that, Stephen Dolan, the individual that was driving drunk that killed CJ Hackett, 16-year-old CJ Hackett, is not getting preferred treatment. But I'll get into that in a minute because he is. Nepotism breaks the link between employment and I had this word, meritocracy, or whatever, not mediocrity, metrocracy. I had it pronounced it well before. Or the word means creating a group, an elite group who progress and succeed because of their ability and talent rather than class, privilege, or wealth. So basically, nepotism breaks the link between, employment and people getting employment and succeeding because of their skills, their talents, their abilities to perform well. In other words, like I said, nepotism destroys the performance-based system, allowing for underqualified people to advance and prosper who have no real talents or skill set. And I'll give you some examples. Perfect example. When Mike Spano loyalist, Mike Breen, actually introduced the legislation to reduce the requirement needed to head the building department so that they could hire another longtime Spano loyalist, Sam Borelli, who doesn't have the cleanest record to begin with or real qualifications and experience. But he's a great manager from what we hear. That's nepotism. They actually lowered the requirements for the job just so they can get one of their buddies. And who did it? Another buddy, Mr. Mike Breen. The guy that's waiting for his job as soon as he's done with politics because he knows how the nepotism system works here. Just ask Michael Sabatino, right? Sure, it's nepotism, right? But it's also those individuals rely on these relationships to survive and pay bills, right? So it's not just nepotism. It's not just about getting a job because of your connection to someone or your relationship and your family member, but it's also their actions and decisions that they now make while in those positions that greatly impact us all, right? So that's another problem. They will do as they're told. The developers hired Nick Spano, Empire Strategic Planning, to assure that the building department would present no problems, among other things. So what did they do? They lowered the requirement for the building department commissioner position and hired Sam Borelli. So the developers will have no problem. Another example is when the city council president, Lakeisha Collins Bellamy, introduced the legislation to extend term limits. Now, why would she do that? Why? Why would she do that? So Mike Spano could run again for fourth term. After he ran again for the third term when Mike Breen and Michael Sabatino introduced legislation to extend it then. That was 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago now. Michael Sabatino was rewarded with a $120,000 job and pension as Director of Constituent Services for that. And so she's hoping for her reward. But isn't she an attorney? right? Remember, she said, put Esquire at the end of puppet. Why? She wasn't a practicing attorney. She wasn't in court litigating. She was working for Macy, where she still works there, for Municipal Housing Authority of the City of Yonkers, under Wilson Kimball, who got her, into the position she's in now, City Council President, along with Zahi Jarris. And you can see it in the video where she thanks them, right? She greatly thanks them, right? So she's working basically making taxpayer money. So she wants the Esquire, okay, at the end of it. Then you go be an attorney, or actually go out and go into a court and litigate, right, Miss Esquire, right? Because she wants to be a judge, and that is why she has introduced that, or did introduce that legislation and ensured that it was passed, because she wanted to become judge. And she will. She will be appointed, just like they appointed recently Karen Beltran. And that's concerning. And I'll get to that in a second, why it's concerning, right? I'll get to that in a second. There's a difference between giving a friend a job that they qualify and are capable of doing a great job at, and then there's the Spano way of giving a GED clan member a $225,000 job, do nothing job. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree. Right. So, the problem with this nepotism is that, one, people are underqualified, right? And so they don't do the job well. Look how they're developing all the Yonkers, right? Who's the city planner? What qualifications do they have? The way they're just developing this place is, ridiculous, I think. And again, I'm not a city planner, but I don't see how we can sustain the amount of people, the traffic that's now coming into the city as a result of all these developments. And remember, there are many developments that are yet to be built. So who's planning all this, right? And are they qualified? Are they qualified? Or are they all just unqualified individuals who are put into these positions to do as they are told, right? So Lakeisha Collins-Bellamy, that's what she's there for, I believe, to be a part of the grand scheme to defraud the city and residents of public property and taxpayer money. And by the way, Lakeisha Collins-Bellamy, if I wanted to be as pretentious as you are, I'd tell you to put MBA at the end of Freddie Vasquez, okay? MBA, because I earned that and I worked hard for that, right? And I took the GMAT and LSAT. And remember, folks, LSAT is not a pass-fail test. That's an inside joke. The person, if they're watching, they'll get it, right? So again, nepotism negatively impacts people, and it creates unfair competition for employment with city jobs and even with some private businesses, as they'll hire certain individuals as favors over others. But more so here, we see it happening with city jobs, and that causes an income inequality, because if a certain group of individuals are limited from getting these jobs, then they don't get to make the $107,000 a year job with health benefits and pension. And so they have to look elsewhere. Now, if they're not starting a business, what will they do? What will they do? I mean, there are not many, industries here, not many jobs where you can make $150,000, $200,000 a year plus with a great, healthcare package and a pension when you retire. City employment is big. And so if you limit individuals, you have this large segment of the population that's obviously not going to progress, because it's unfair. The competition is unfair. So those with the most or the best skills are not necessarily going to progress here in the city of Yonkers. So that's one of the impacts, and it creates income inequality. So you have a segment of the population that remains impoverished, and they have till this day. Right? So when the mayor controls the job, who gets the job? That's how it goes. But it also impacts the economy. Impacts the safety of our residents. And I'll tell you about that in a second. James Nolan got a patronage job after 1 month in office with DPW. Yes. And that's something that, has been mentioned. James Nolan is county legislator, and I think he announced that he's running for re-election. Did he announce? I saw him make an announcement. And so he was working in a school. He was working as, in maintenance, right, in some of the janitorial department, and he won. He became a county legislator, and after that, shortly thereafter, he was transferred over to DPW, where he was put on a route, a sanitation route, right? And so people got upset about that. They said, did he get that reward, right? Did he get rewarded? Hello? I try to pick up. Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Well, I'm trying to have, calls, so I was hoping somebody would call in, but I guess not. Anyway, the number will be down there. Let me put the number. I'm going to, actually screen the calls. I'll be having someone do that. But, so James Nolan got this job with sanitation, right? And he has, very good work hours, which allows him to go and do his, duties, as a county legislator. I guess he gets off by 10 o'clock or something like that. He goes in, I don't know what time they're going, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. They're off by 10. And they're like, man, this guy got a great job. Got that kind of a promotion really because they make more money. And he's also now a county legislator. And don't forget the fact that they, I helped him. They definitely helped him with his election. He was supported by Zahi Jarris and Precision Strategies, which strategized for his campaign, right? They were like the campaign management. So when you have them behind you, you have a good shot of winning. Not always. Tim Hodges didn't win, but you have a good shot. So, you guys decide how you feel about that. Don't forget the McLaughlin's do-nothing job. And yes, are you referring to Liam McLaughlin? Liam McLaughlin, he's connected. He's another insider, another, family and friend member. His family goes back to the days of the desegregation of the schools and the housing. His mom led a group of residents who wanted to keep schools and housing segregated. They didn't want any, low income or affordable housing on the east side. And, some of the things she said, and you can see them on the YouTube video, might be considered racist, right? Liam McLaughlin, is he a racist? Was he raised that way? So, that may play a role in how he is as an inspector general, right? Is he a racist? I mean, did he learn from his family, right? And they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You and your family are the ones who teach you, and instill your values. So, I mean, you can go on YouTube and check it out. They didn't want the Hispanics, the Puerto Ricans, and the blacks to go over there, the lazy welfare crackheads, That's some of the things that they were saying. And these individuals are very involved in the city government here, play a big and important role. But again, nepotism presents a safety to our community, our residents here, literally a real safety. Some individuals, who work for the city, who are part of this nepotism group and family and friend network, have a sense of entitlement and feeling of invincibility because they know that they will get away with any trouble that they may cause. And they have, right? They have. We've seen it time and time again, people getting off again, as in the case of Akeem Jamal. Should have went to jail, should have been a lot bigger of a deal. And he shouldn't have been getting promoted, should have been fired from the city. There are people that have been working for the city, committing crimes while working for the city, and then they go to jail, come back out, and get rehired by the city. Meanwhile, you got a list of individuals that have been waiting to get hired by the city for God knows how long. And that's not fair. That's all I'm saying. Right? That's all I'm saying. Time and time again, individuals have driven drunk, destroying property, including city vehicles, injuring others, and even killing innocent people just trying to live their lives, right? We're just going about our daily lives in the city of Yonkers. We got to worry about these individuals, not caring about anything. Driving drunk, right? I don't care. People like 16-year-old CJ Hackett or soon-to-be retiring Detective Sergeant Frank Gauldino. CJ was out having fun with friends, and Sergeant Gauldino was on his usual patrol on Tuckahoe Road before each would lose their lives. Technically, the cause of death in both incidents was the irresponsible operation of a motor vehicle, but ultimately, it is the untouchable feeling, right? The untouchable attitude that certain people or certain families have because they are connected. They're connected to powerful players within the city that will keep things quiet. They will cover it up as much as possible using their resources, which include their control of elected officials, community leaders, and the media, which provide the people with very little, if any, information at all, right? An example, right, is the death, again, of CJ Hackett, 16-year-old CJ Hackett out over there on McLean Avenue on his scooter, killed by a man driving drunk after the man was attending a darts tournament. He went to several bars or a couple bars right before going and driving drunk. He fled the scene and tried to fix his vehicle in a blatant attempt to cover it up. He would then go to work like nothing had happened, where he would be arrested in City Hall, of all places. They should have arrested more people. Stephen Dolan would go to court where a judge would give him a low bail or actually reduce the bail initially. This was when he first went to court, right? And that angered people, really pissed people off. On Friday, this past Friday, Dolan appeared in court where an attorney entered a not guilty plea. Dolan had been indicted for manslaughter and leaving the scene of an accident without reporting injury. The DA asked the bail to be raised to another $500,000, but the judge left it at $100,000 for whatever reason, right? The DA asked for the raise, saying that Dolan had over 17 drinks prior to killing CJ, but the judge again kept the bail at $100,000. Now, why would they serve him so many drinks? Why would these establishments serve this man so many drinks? Right? And why did he plead not guilty? It's obvious he's guilty. He tried to cover it up. He tried to paint the car. He acted like nothing had happened. This is a little boy. This could be your son, your 16-year-old child. You have to put yourself in the shoes of his parents, and we have to speak out. And this is what I was saying in the last podcast. Well, it may not have happened to you. It may not be you. You must speak out because one day it could be you. One day it could be you. And you had an opportunity to speak out now and stop it, but you failed to do so. So don't let that be the case. We must speak out against this injustice and this nepotism and patronage here in the city of Yonkers, because enough is enough. Enough is enough. Again, why did he plead not guilty? Why did the judge not raise his bail? And this is what I'm talking about when I mention judges being appointed. I have a strong suspicion that some judge will be called in to do a favor. I'm just saying, he's chancing it. He's taking it to trial. He's pleading not guilty when it's obvious that he was the guy that drove it and killed CJ Hackett and left and tried to fix up the car. And there may be even evidence that he had some insider help or help from individuals who are connected to insiders. Right? So the poor kid lost his life because of a drunk-ass person, and a 16-year-old that took the life of an officer gets away with it. This is BS. I agree. Sure, actually, Tony, call the number on the screen there if you like, and I can put you on live here with me if you like. Is that what you mean by talking? I definitely would love to do that. Yeah, Tony Solari. Am I saying incorrectly? His son was with CJ when it happened, and that has an impact on his son. That has a very, negative impact, a traumatizing impact on his son. Right? That's like the trauma that a lot of us have grown up in the hood, quote unquote, when we see, people get killed. Like I have. I've seen people get killed. The first time I was on my way to a Little League game, I was in my baseball uniform. Right? And I would see people get killed. And so that's traumatizing. So, I mean, if that's if that's what you mean, sure. The number there. If not, when I get off air, we can talk. And what about Detective Sergeant Frank Gauldino? Detective Sergeant Frank Gauldino was driving on Tuckahoe Road in his, I think it was an unmarked vehicle, when a 16-year-old unlicensed driver in a BMW, a blue M5 BMW, which is a souped up version of a BMW, 5 Series, came speeding across the overpath, losing control, slamming into the officer's vehicle, killing him. I would hope instantly, I'd say, because I would hate to have known that he suffered. Seeing as bad as the damage was, it was pretty bad, the impact. Very recently I saw a family member, I'm not sure if it was his wife, rearranging the flowers there, cleaning up the site where it happened, the memorial that was set up there. They had a police officer. She had a police officer with her, blocking the lane there just to give her some space. And that's awesome. And that's appreciated, I'm sure, by the family. But what about giving them the justice that they're looking for? Many members of the police department here in the city of Yonkers are upset. 1 second, folks. Hello? 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 Can you hear me? Hello? I don't know. I'm going to try calling back. I'll try calling that number back. Pick up. It might be a strange number, but that's me. Just, so maybe that's Tony Soleri, is it? And maybe we can speak about the CJ Hackett incident, right? But again, officers of the YPD, members of the YPD are upset about, what happened and the fact that they're not getting any answers from the mayor, from anybody. And, I hear that, and I'm not sure, this isn't confirmed, that, the boy will not be charged, nothing will happen, and the case is going to be closed. And I, don't know if that's how true that is, but that's what I heard. I'm going to give you a call back. This should be me giving you a call now. I just had to get the number. I'm sorry. And so, a lot of people are upset. And this is what I'm saying. Again, enough is enough. It has to end. At some point, we have to say enough is enough. Hello? 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 Yeah, can you hear me? Hey, how you doing? Good. All right, so you're live with me on the podcast. So, folks, it's Tony Soleri. Just help me welcome on the show. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. So tell me, what is it specifically you'd like to say?
Everybody needs to know what really is going on here in Yonkers. So let me just shut down the podcast in the back. So what's happening is that everybody's getting all these different stories about what really happened that night. Unfortunately, my son was with CJ when it happened. So I personally have all the facts and everything that led up to it that night. Where do you want to start, Freddie? So many people are calling in and saying crazy things.
If you want to clear some things up, just start where, from the beginning, I guess, where you want to, what do you want it, clear up? What is it that you want people to know exactly?
Well, CJ was at my house that night with my son. He came over to hang out approximately around 9:30 at night. My son came, actually all the kids were hanging out together around 9:30 at a local park. My son got injured, came home. They were playing with these water pellet guns. They got shot in the eye. So AJ came home early. And he's like, Dad, I think a couple of guys are going to come over and sleep over tonight. I'm like, my door's always open to these kids. So probably around, I think it was like 11 something that night. And I've had it all on videotape. I have cameras inside my house and outside my house. CJ walked through my back doors. I was sitting at the kitchen table in my underwear with no shirt on. I'm like, oh, whoa. I'm like, who's walking through the door? And CJ's like, oh, it's me and Tim. AJ said we could come on. I'm like, yeah, sure. Give me 2 seconds. Let me throw some clothes on. They're like, CJ's kidding around with me. Goes, hey, Tony, we both got the same parts. Who cares? So we laughed about that for a while. We sat in the kitchen talking for about 15, 20 minutes. Me, CJ, my son, they were going to go in the hot tub and everything. So I'm like, all right, I went up to bed. Unfortunately, they decided to leave the house and start heading over towards CJ's house. They took the McLean Avenue route, and I guess they stopped to talk to a couple of friends at Point Park, and they came out of the parking lot, made the left to go heads up towards Acme More, and that's when the accident happened. It happened so quick, I guess. I guess DJ was going on his scooter in and out of the line, but when he was actually struck, he was struck on the yellow line, or if not closer to the right traffic light. Pretty much, we were told that when we got there, that he was pretty much dead on arrival. He pretty much in bad shape. They didn't think he was going to make it. That night, we left. and went down with a of the Yonkers police force. We went with him. We went down to give a statement. AJ went down with him to give a statement. I think it was about 1:30ish, 2:30. Let's say between exact time I don't know it. Let's say it was between 1:30 and 2:15. Detective Cognelli had his walkie-talkie on when he was giving us, he was debriefing AJ, and right then and there they said, "Hey, we think we got him." I said, "We think you got him. You got him that quick?" They said, "We got the guy already." So he got up and left the room. Came back about 15 minutes later, and apparently it was the wrong car. The description and everything was correct, but but then I guess it wasn't the right guy. So we stayed there till whatever time. It was 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, giving statements. We left. Comes to find out 3 days later that when they figured out who his father is, a retired police officer. We're not sure if he's a retired detective or a sergeant. Now I just heard he might be a sergeant. He's a retired Yonkers sergeant. So the question now is, did they really have him that night?
Right.
Did he flash his badge, father's badge? Nobody has now come forth and told us how fast they figured out who he was. Now, they did tell us, the camera at this corner was down, the camera over here was down. But eventually they figured out who it was. And for 3 days, he lay low, right underneath the police officers, detectives' noses. Matter of fact, I got it on a very good intel that one of the 3 days that the police was supposedly looking for him as a person of interest, he was actually working in the courthouse.
Yes, that's what I heard. Yes.
Okay, so how hard?
Well, I heard that's where they actually went and arrested him. He was in City Hall, actually, or the courthouse. Maybe it was confusing, but one of the city buildings there.
So that's where they got him.
So you're saying that maybe they might have had him when they said that, when that call came through the walkie-talkie that they got the guy, that it may have been him, but they let him go so they wouldn't breathalyze him. They'll give him the breathalyzer test.
I mean, it's beginning to make more and more sense now. That's what happened because, they were excited at first, the police officers. They got him right away. They were approaching the car, and all of a sudden, guess what? And I wasn't the right person. We're like, oh, okay.
Right.
You guys, so, we left it alone. This is all new to us. So, long story short now is that he's listening to all these things. So they find him. They arrest him. We go down there. As soon as I find out, as you know, and I was just having a conversation with someone this morning about it. Yonkers police force has more holes in it than the Titanic had. I get more information out of people leaking information every day.
Right.
So as soon as I heard they physically had him in custody, I go right down, right to the thing. I knocked on the door, and I was met by not one but two detectives. They wouldn't let me in the building. And the first thing out of Detective Cognelli's mouth is, "Tony, calm down. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people." I said, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Right.
Good. He's a good guy, something, he's being cooperative, And so I'm like, "Really?" I said, "So," and I was with another person, and that person was like, "I can't believe they said something like that. You're already defending this guy."
Right.
If it was me or you, buddy, I'd be beat up in the back of a
oh yeah, 1,000%.
Somewhere, I would have got a beat on the way to jail.
So they already we're going into it, feeling bad for him, being more concerned with him. He's a good guy that just had something bad happen to him, as if it was beyond his control, right? But he left the scene.
They have his phone, supposedly, and I've been waiting. I've been begging. We put in for the 911 tape. We listened to the 911 tape for my son. We've been denied a couple of times because of I don't know why. I just want to see what my son's mindset was at night.
Right. And how is your son doing since the accident?
He wants justice. It's all about, again, his justice for CJ. He blames himself. He's, holds himself a little bit responsible. What happens if we would have stopped and talked to the friends for 5 more minutes?
Right.
Or what happens if instead of going out and out? I'm not, you get a lot of people, and this is what bothers me. I laugh at a lot of people because my son has a curfew. 9:30, you're in the house. If you're going to go to somebody else's house, we'll let you stay up till 11 o'clock. One night. And then, and he feels bad about it. One night that he decided to go out longer, and this is what happened. Now, I drive up McLean Avenue constantly at nighttime. I go to the Chip Cafe over on Martha Avenue. Now, I could tell you when I see 15-year-olds and 14-year-old boys going outside bars. They're letting them in and out of the bars. They charge them more money for drink, but they bring them in and out of the bars.
Wow.
Now, my son doesn't go with those. You ask me where my son is right now. My son is upstairs playing video games right now. He doesn't leave his room. His girlfriend comes here, or he goes to his girlfriend's house. And this wasn't only because what happened to CJ. That's the way my son was. He didn't go hang out with the crew, and he hung out with them a little bit. But 9:30, he's in my house.
Right, and it's sad
So
that's how it has to be nowadays, huh? We have to keep our kids indoors.
And they're all good kids. Every one of them are good kids. I trust every one of these kids.
Right.
And so then what happens is, now as you start digging, as I start digging, you find out that, his father is a retired, I was told a retired detective. From day one, I was told detective. I heard this the other day on Friday at the courthouse that his father was retired sergeant, but, I heard it was a detective. He was a detective. And then I heard, when he was arrested in jail, he was put into some people said it was because of suicide, but it wasn't because of suicide. It was because he was suicidal. It was because of the new COVID rules. You had to be isolated. But he also some of the correctional officers that he knew that were bringing them out. I had to laugh because he played hockey with these guys.
Really?
Yeah. So what they're talking about special treatment. Okay, listen, there's a conflict of interest,
Right,
then,
absolutely.
Then I start questioning the fact that the detective that's in charge, his father's also a retired Yonkers cop. And I said, listen, any chance your father knows his father? Because now this is getting to be a real beginning into a conspiracy theory.
Right.
Because everyone's protecting. Oh, he didn't mean to do it. He was, he's given us so much information. He gave us so much information that he pretty much put a dagger in his coffin. That's exactly what they were telling us. He's screwed. I'm like, okay. And now all of a sudden, things have been not good. And I just asked the DA the other day. I said, who also worked for the city of Yonkers for a very long time.
Yep.
So now you start laughing, going, wow. And I said, and I now have asked him now not once but 3 times for him to accuse himself of the case. Because I said, how do I know that you didn't work with James's father?
Absolutely.
Even if it was the smallest case possible, there is a conflict of interest.
I mean, the judges have been recusing. I'm sorry, judges have been recusing themselves in that Hector Santiago nonsense. Why not this? This is a bigger deal.
It's like, so, but the guy's like, no, I'm straight and narrow or whatever. I'm like, so I'm putting my trust in you.
Right.
I'll think what happened 2 weeks ago. But so as they were building the case up, whatever, September 2nd, I get a phone call from the DA, and his name is James Rivera. And he goes, hey, I'm getting ready to go on vacation. Just want to touch base with you. Letting ask you how you guys are doing. I'm like, yeah, everything's going good. But, case is going. He goes, we're still going through video footage, whatever. But I'm going to go away for 2 weeks. But I just wanted to touch base with you. So I'm like, all right, no problem. I talked to Devon. She pretty much wants me to go through you for now on. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. He goes, I have to ask you a question. I said, go for it. He goes, I hear there's a bounty out there on this guy's head. I said, excuse me? He goes, yeah, and there's a certain amount of money on it. I said, well, are we talking about the $25,000 bounty? And he goes, yeah. You know anything about it? I said, no, I'm hearing the same thing you heard.
So there's a $25,000 bounty, or there's some rumor going around.
That was the rumor. That was the rumor. So I'm like, I heard the same thing from you guys. You know, I heard the same thing that you guys heard. I was on the Cross County Parkway coming home. By the time I got home, I had 2 police officers waiting for me at my house.
Wow.
Detective Coganelli and Detective Hollywood wanted to know where I'm getting my sources from. And I'm like, oh, they knew it was my son's birthday. My niece was getting ready to leave. She was moving to I think Milwaukee. I think that's where she went. And I'm like, I'm not telling you where I get my sources from. You know. So this went on for over an hour, threatening to arrest me because I wouldn't cooperate with them. It took me. This is how I got them to back down, and it's pathetic. I said, listen. I said, you guys know it's my son's birthday. You guys, heard from the DA that I knew there was a price on this guy's head. I said, let me ask you something right now. If I tell you that the guy who told me outranks you in your own police department, what are you going to do? Go arrest him? They both, you want to talk about 2 bitches? Both took their asses and said, oh shit, we know exactly who it was, and got in the car and left after 53 minutes of harassing me. All on videotape.
Wow.
I had it all on videotape.
And
get in the cars and leave.
What about the bars that he had been drinking at? Did they identify those bars that he had been to where he was drinking?
They picked a couple of bars. They're on McLean Avenue and off of McLean. But I'm not going to get into the names of the bars.
Yeah, and I just asked because they said that he was served 17. He had 17 drinks, and there was an incident at a bar called Duos where someone was shot and killed. The elected officials went after them. They made this big stink about it. They shut it down. And I'm not looking to shut anybody down. I'm just saying what was the difference here? And this goes to talk about or speak on the nepotism and family and friend connection. And that's all I'm saying. This is why it's important that people know about this because everything's almost connected. And this is why he is getting the preferred treatment. Many people believe he's getting.
Well, we definitely think something's going on. We've been smelling nothing but rotten eggs from the start, the mother and I and the family, and and it got to a point where my son went in front of the grand jury 2 weeks ago, and the week before that they brought us in on a Friday, said that we're going to talk to AJ. I said, no problem. I went to go walk in with him as a prep. That's how you can't come in there. I said, really? You're a DA. You got assistant DA. You got Detective Coganello here. My son's underage.
Right.
Like, don't worry about it. We're just going to stick to the script. What's inside his statement is only the statement we're going to go over. So I'm like, I really don't feel comfortable. Like, well, we need to do this. We can't be coached by us. He goes, well, when on the video of you, when you guys showed up back to the crime scene, you did all the talking. I'm like, that's what a father does, right?
Right.
Like, my son was in shock. What had just happened? He was holding his freaking best friend's head. The kid was in shock. So
he has a right to be represented by counsel or someone.
Yeah. So he went in. My son came out, and we left. And I find out later, my son was like, "Oh, they were asking about all these other things that had nothing to do with my statement." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So now I'm pissed. So I write this nasty email to the DA. I'm like, "Listen, before we go in front of the grand jury, I said I want to know if I can listen. This is my second request now, and my sister already put in 2 requests to listen to the 911 tape. I wanted to see what my son was going through that night."
Right.
So that's what I did. So the guy turns around to me on the day we go in for the grand jury, and oh my God, if anybody knows me that's listening, I'm not a very cool-headed kind of guy. Turns around and says, "You know what?" He goes, "We're going to take your son in later on today." So we waited all morning. So they're going to take it. He goes, "And by the way, I got your email." He goes, "I really don't appreciate it. I don't think you trust me." I said, "You want to know the truth?" I said, "I don't fucking trust you as far as I could throw you." That's number one. I said, "Something's definitely going on with this case, and I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely going to keep on digging." He goes, let me tell you something about your request about the 911 tape. I don't care about your request for the FOIL. It's called the FOIL Act.
Yeah.
I don't care about the FOIL Act. and you could go back and tell your lawyer, I don't care about that either. So I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, really? I'm like, I know George Nader for years. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, and he said to call him by his name. I'm like, wow, where did that come from? I got up, my son grabbed me. I was about to put him through the wall. Right then and there. I'm like, so I said, how important is today? They're like, oh, it's very important, whatever. I'm like, I said, no, and they're yelling and screaming fit. I said, maybe we'll be back and maybe we won't. I took my son and his girlfriend. We marched out of that building. We left. I came back and then, I calmed down. I talked to some people. Of course, you have to now. You have to fight unfairness with friends. So I started making phone calls right away. So who can get me to this guy? So I ended up getting in touch with his boss. So he goes, come back to the courthouse. We'll sit down and talk. We went and sat down with Mr. John O'Rourke, which is supposedly the DA's boss. I tell him everything. I said, listen, we heard there was like 15 charges. Now we're down to 3 charges. There was somebody that helped him. Okay. He says, he tells everybody he blacked out, but he so blacked out, but he called and asked people for help.
Right.
How blacked out can you be if you ask people for help? Now, can we, only the DA really knows and the detectives know who he actually talked to that night. It's not yet come out yet. We have to wait for trial. I'm like, was it his father? Did his father tell him to go on with his day like nothing happened? Was it a friend? Nobody knows who told him what to do. But for a guy that was supposedly blacked out drunk,
he was very strategic.
He was able to do that. Yeah, he stopped. He tried to clean his car. He tried to repair his car. So my question was to John O'Rourke is, if I help my son, if we reverse, if I help my son, he called me and told me that, I know my ass would be sitting in jail right next to him. Why are we going after the person or people that gave him the heads up?
Right.
Now,
they aided and abetted.
That's what we thought, And, even if it was the smallest thing like, clean the car, play it off. Let's see if they find you for whatever the case may be.
Right.
We don't know it. The police know it, but we don't.
Right.
So, and then ever since then, now it's like, I'm public enemy number one because, I'm pointing the fingers back at the cop. And everyone going, where's the justice here? This guy's going to be doing no more than 2 years, probably.
Yeah, they said that he faces up to 7 years. I said, even if he got the max of 7 years,
even
if he did, though, the family is for the rest of their lives. They will be in hell for the. I could only imagine as a parent. That's how I would be for the rest of my life. And he maybe gets 7 years.
Yeah. So honestly, I asked them on Friday. Friday was court. We go there. We go to court Friday, and we wait. He finally shows up. We packed the courtroom. Everybody was there. We had over 50 people in the courtroom, and this was just for an arraignment. So he had to walk past 50, 60 people. He had talking about the most. And listen, it might be his lawyers telling him to keep his mouth shut, which is all good and dandy. But you know what? You could have turned around at any time and said, "I'm sorry."
Right.
You could have shown some kind of remorse.
Right. So he hasn't shown any remorse. Hasn't tried to reach out through a friend or through family just to say, "I'm sorry." Nothing.
Nothing anywhere. No comments from the family. No, nothing like that. Listen, he not only destroyed our family lives, he destroyed his own family's life.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think he woke up in the middle of the day and said, "No, I'm bored. Let's go out and kill a kid tonight."
Sure.
It was a tragic accident. He became a monster from the moment he knew what he did. He stopped, hit the brakes, looked out, saw my son run over to his friend, grab his friend, and he took off.
Right. And at that point, his concern was self-preservation.
That's it. That's exactly what it was. Right. And then everything that happened afterwards went in line with that. Daddy run to daddy for help.
Right.
Let's hide right underneath this police's nose is where, right where they work. How much more convenient can that be? And then when you question them, they kind of, you have to understand. And this statement will be the one statement that I'll never forget. When they turned around and said to me, "Sometimes bad things happen to good guys." What kind of statement is that? That guy just killed a boy. Right. Boy. He'll never have his first kiss. He'll never get married. never enjoy the manhood, but you'll do 2.5 years, if that, 3 years, and you'll be out there drinking tomorrow.
Right.
Again. So, where's the fairness in that?
And the way things have happened here, he may even get his job back afterward.
I feel confident he's not going to get his job back.
It wouldn't be surprising though, because it's happened.
Oh yeah, it's happened, but I'm sure would be. I think we're making enough to think about it. Hopefully, it won't. But the fact that 2.5 years, for murder, that's all you're gonna get. Yeah, I understand he didn't purposely do it. Don't get me wrong. But, like I said, I didn't know until Friday. Friday was the first time I heard about the 17 drinks. But, they're trying now, the DA is trying to play it down, saying, well, you know what? CJ's top screen came back. No drugs, but he might have had a little alcohol in him. I'm like, I sat down in my kitchen and spoke to this kid for over 20 minutes. He did not seem impaired. He did not seem drunk. I had conversations. We were laughing and having a good time. I have video of him in my backyard. How could this kid be drunk?
Wow.
What do you say? Are you trying to say, well, what they're saying that, to be fair, this is what they were telling the mother and the father on Friday. The costume shows that he had some alcohol in it. Now, they're not saying that he was drunk, because the word drunk never came out of their mouth. So, but now it's like, well, let's compare apples to apples. No one was drunk, but, he might have been like, who in the right mind even says that at DA? It's like, wow. Are you serious now? It's crazy.
Wow.
So now we're at the point where, we won justice. He doesn't go back to court now. They gave him an ankle bracelet.
So he's on house arrest now.
See, this is where I know people commented on my post the other day on the Voice. The word house arrest was never put down. So there was no house arrest. He does have an ankle bracelet, so he does not flee. One of the questions was that if he would go ahead and flee, take off. So the judge said, you know what? To stop him from fleeing, we're going to put an ankle bracelet on. So he's not under house arrest. He could He could be working in your basement tomorrow, changing your toilet tomorrow if he wanted to.
So he's living his life, and he's going about like nothing ever happened, for the most part.
Like that. And the best part is you listen to his defense attorneys, turn around and say, oh, from day one his family's been behind him and everything. Well, the very first day they brought him in front of the judge was the day of CJ's funeral. Myself, my son, his girlfriend, my niece, my sister Carolyn, and I think one other person were in the courtroom that day.
Wow.
That was not one other person there.
Wow.
So, I was like, why aren't we bringing this up to the judge and telling the judge that the defense is lying? And then they're like, the second time the family was there. No, the family wasn't there the second time either. The third time, the last time on Friday, the father did walk him in into the courtroom. I had a staring contest with the father. It is what it is. I'm a big boy, and I made sure they had to walk by me. And they were going to court, and then the very first day, let me jump back to the very first day. The defense gets up there and goes, Your Honor, you have to please understand that Mr. Dolan, Dolan, I always get them both grew up. Dolan saying to me, had a very rough childhood. He was abused when he was a kid.
Wow.
What the hell does that give you any right to go out drinking like a madman and kill kids?
Wow.
This is just a bail hearing. What's that got to do with anything?
Well, it seemed like it may have worked because the DA was asking for a raise, but they kept it at $100,000.
It's because of his job and that because he doesn't make that kind of money.
So, why does he get any special consideration?
Well, it's also the state I'm not blaming on nobody. It's also the state we live in. The reform, it's the reform. I caught a guy breaking into a woman's house 11 months ago, a year ago. Caught a guy breaking into somebody's house, and now the guy has a protection order against me.
Wow.
Because I caught him. I turned to him. The police got him. They arrested him. I identified him. This guy goes out and gets a protection order. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's why people are leaving New York. One of the reasons, anyway.
The guy was arrested at 1:30 in the morning, between 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was back out of jail by 9 a.m. How crazy is that?
And I have a question. What did the police, the detective, ask your son when he went in and spoke with them, and they asked you not to be there with him? He said that they asked him about other things outside of what his original statement.
Yeah, they were asking like who else was there, what they were doing, were they drinking, was there alcohol there? Now this is all questions you should be asking a 6-year-old without the parents being there.
It seems like he's trying to paint them. Yeah, they're trying to paint them as irresponsible, unreliable witnesses. Probably they were drinking and they were drunk themselves, and which is why they got into this accident. You know what I mean? Like trying to put some of the responsibility on the kids.
Well, that's one of the biggest things is that Detective Coccanelli kept on calling me. Something doesn't make sense there. I'm like, what doesn't make sense there? You got to ask your son, did he move the body? Did he move the body? I said, my son, if you look at my son, he's a scrawny little kid, but he's strong for his age. I said, let me talk to him. I said, hey, did you move the body? He goes, no, Dad, I didn't move the body. What I did do, he got hit so bad hard, it knocked his pants down to his ankle. I pulled his pants up. I didn't want anybody to see him look like that. I said, okay. So I called back Coccanello. I'm like, my son says he did not, where the body was. Oh, it doesn't make sense. Because I think they're trying to paint it where it was CJ was across the line, with the traffic. Because where the body ended up was, in the right lane of traffic with the oncoming, where you should have been. So that's the way it's beginning to sound like, oh, we think he got hit over here because it's amazing. It's right outside of Acme. There's a camera right there. It catches him. He was on the wrong side of the road. But it appeared that he was going back to the right side of the road.
So they're trying to make it seem like, maybe it was CJ and he was on the wrong side of the road. So really the accident was caused by CJ's, I guess, reckless driving or whatever, and not Stephen Dolan, although he may have been drinking, but he was fine. He was in his, he was in his lane. He was driving fine.
That's what it sounds like.
Wow.
That's the way they're trying to paint it right now.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, I don't care what side of the road he was on. He struck him. He stopped. It took off.
Right. So if he had nothing to worry about, then he should have stayed.
The defense attorney said, "Oh, he was blacked out. It was a blackout, and he thought he stopped. He thought he hit a cone and stopped him up." I'm sorry. If anybody ever saw my son, he's got he's like Chewbacca with a hair. He's a big, hair all over the place. T-shirt. You would have known the difference between a young man and a cone any day.
Wow.
There's no question about. There's no confusion there. You go come back with I blacked out. I thought it was a nightmare and all this stuff. But how much could that really save you?
Now, when did they do the toxicology report? It was 3 days later when they arrested him? Wow. Now, you know what the problem with that is, and I know that it's the toxicology report said that there were no drugs in his system, right? No illegal drugs, narcotics. But the reality is that there are certain drugs that will come out of your system after 3 days. And one of them being cocaine. Particularly.
Well, I don't know nothing about that. But
well, because I knew a cop once that actually had done cocaine. I said, hey, aren't you concerned that this is not Yonkers? I'm not talking about Yonkers. And I said, aren't you concerned with that? You could get it. He goes, oh, we're made aware when the drug tests are going to come up, and it comes out of your system in about 3 days. That's what he was. I said, oh, okay, I guess.
Right. Well, let me educate you on that. If they take a hair sample, it's in your hair for 30 days.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, so yeah. I guess. Yeah.
So I was in the courtroom the day of the arraignment when he turned himself in, and we waited for him to come out in front of the judge the very first day. And as we were walking out, we were approached by a male detective and said, "Is Mrs. Hackett here or Mr. Hackett?" I said, "No, they're still down at the hospital. What can I do for you?" They're like, "Oh, we need permission to get CJ Colvin." So I'm like, all right, so I'll make a phone call. Give me a second. I made the phone call. I say, oh, they need to, tell them to come down here and get it. I'm like, okay, go ahead and go down and do it. So I think from Gum Street, they were trying to, see, what these kids were up to.
Right. Wow.
What these kids, drinking. Listen, these kids nowadays, smoke, drink. You go to any corner on McLean Avenue, you can pick this shit up anywhere now.
Right. Yeah, but that still doesn't, justify, justify what he did. I mean, he put a lot of people in danger by getting in that vehicle as drunk as he did, and unfortunately it was CJ that, he happened to hit, but it could have been anyone else, it could have been, someone's grandmother, a pregnant woman. It could have been anyone. Right.
He missed my son by about a foot and a half.
Wow. It could have been two boys there. Thank God. Wow.
It's the fact that my son didn't stop, a car pulled out of Acme and CJ went around the car. My son stopped to let the car go out, and then AJ caught up to them. If it wasn't for that one car, AJ didn't stop for let that car go, there could have been 2 kids dead right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So that's why, everyone's like, I'm getting bashed out. Listen, I'm not hiding from nobody. I'll tell everybody where I live. I don't give a shit. I live right here in Yonkers. I'm a lifetime member of Yonkers. Been in Yonkers all my life. If they understand he's a good guy. I said, listen, he's a good guy. I understand he's a good guy. He was a good guy, no problem. I understand he fought a battle to get his kids. God bless. He did what he had to do to save his kids, of his wife. It was a bad. I understand that's all good and dandy, but you guys don't understand what I'm fighting for. What I'm fighting for, it's not that he wasn't a good guy. He was a good guy all the way up until the moment where he hit him, realized what he did, and then his actions after the fact.
Right.
That's what I'm after.
Right. If he shows some remorse, he stayed there. He's accepting whatever. He's sorry. You can, but he just.
He's stone cold. When I tell you stone cold, he walks right by you like nothing. Fucking coldness. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, wow. He had every opportunity. Listen, it might be his defense. Listen, I'll make excuses for this guy right now. Maybe this is his defense. Don't interact with the families, but it would have been nice to say, listen, Your Honor, I'm sorry for what I did. This is something I did, anything. When they was asked questions, yeah, I'm a plumber. How long? Yeah, what you did before that? I worked for the city of Yonkers. You worked for the city of Yonkers? Actually, matter of fact, he didn't. And he goes, oh, yeah, which was a lie because he was fired by Yonkers. That was never brought up. What did you do before that? I was a plumber at different places. It was never like, any type of remorse. He could have took the opportunity to say, listen, turn around and say, listen, I screwed up. I apologize to the family. At least that's something.
Right. Not once has he said, I'm sorry. Not once.
Not once. Public, you could have, Channel 12 News was there. Channel 7 News was there. You could have stopped, talked to them. I'm sorry. Could have said the words, I'm sorry. It's not going to fix anything, but it's a start, right?
At least express remorse. And at least show that you understand that the parents are going through probably the worst thing they've ever gone through in their lives.
It's crazy what they're going through. The mother had to move upstate because of all the stuff that's being said down here. So she's not. They all moved up. The father was already up there with the kids, but they moved up there now. And it's just like it's like you got on every street corner, you got all these people gossiping. Oh, he was, CJ was a drug addict. No,
wow,
he was not a drug
really?
Addict. It's like you hear all these different things. Oh, they were at parties with all these people. Listen, I know exactly who they were hanging out with that night. I made my son. What hurts the generation nowadays, from the time you and I both grew up, it's technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Social media.
Yeah, social media. These are guys that night are all snapping, Snapchatting on Instagram and who they were with, what kids were in that group. I'm not mentioning what kids' names, but there was some people you'd be surprised about that were in that group. Which families are very well known in Yonkers. And that you're taking pictures. People who has a beer in their hand, who doesn't have a beer. I made my son keep all that information. I said, listen, this is crazy. How they're going to turn around and make it's the kids' fault.
Right.
It's just crazy.
And where are those rumors, coming from? Where are they originating from? I mean, why are people?
You know what? People just got nothing better to do with their lives. That's why I went on The Voice yesterday and put it out there. You want the facts? These are the facts. Actually, I'll tell you, got nothing to hide.
Right.
CJ was a good kid. At the end of the day, it's a tragic accident. I feel for all families involved. And you don't think it's not only my son involved and CJ's family. The Dolans involved. Their family is destroyed. They're now destroyed over this.
I'm sure.
This affected a lot of people. And just the way it's playing out is like, you know what? I know my sister cries, Club City and Yonkers, all the time. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It is what it is. It's the devil we know, the city of Yonkers. I'm used to all these people now. It's the people we know. But at the same time, now you're dealing with this. You start, listen, I start putting things together myself, and I'm like, okay, all right. The DA used to work. It was the chief criminal justice, whatever, for the city of Yonkers Court for like 10 years, for 8 years. Okay, and then you got the detective who's investigating the case, whose father could have been working with Dolan's father. That's the rumor that they worked together throughout at least once or twice throughout their career. So one was a what's that called, a motorcycle cop. Another one was a regular plainclothes cop. Pretty much same time they retired. Pretty much everything. So so there's that. It's not hard to follow the facts. Like there could be that possibility where at first the guy got a little leanings because of who his father was.
Right.
Now, these new rookies nowadays want to really risk their careers over this. And so how fast everything can get spun out of control. I don't know. I'm hoping that they weren't going to do that. But, I found it very amusing that I got a phone call about, from a DA right before he went on vacation. Oh, did you hear about the $25,000 bounty? Yeah, I heard about it. So that's all I took. And I had two cop cars, two police officers at my house trying to arrest me.
Wow.
This guy murdered somebody.
Well, it's an election year. The mayor obviously is, trying to go for a fourth term, and he, really did it in a way that also pissed people off. So, it's already a tough election, and something like this being high profile, right? I'm sure that they are very involved in it and what's happening. The top, the mayor's office, wants to make sure that things are, don't go bad in a way that affects them and makes them look bad for this coming election year. And so that's what Anthony DiMaggio, former Yonkers police lieutenant, is saying. It's an election year, and this case is very high profile. So there is no way that
I'm not going to let it go.
Cognatello, whatever, and Hollywood are quarterbacking this investigation. Not a chance. The direction they steer it is being decided by brass after approval from City Hall.
Well, I don't know which way, honestly. At the end of the day, everybody needs to understand. You got now this high-profile case. First of all, you go in front of a judge, and you get whatever. They ask for $1 million. I think it ended up being like $50,000 bail, bond, whatever that was. Now, you got these kids. Now, this kid, you're not talking about just a nobody on the street. If you were at the funeral, you would have seen this kid was liked by everybody from the Bronx all the way up into the mountains. This kid was one of those legit, genuine good kids. It wasn't a wise kid. Was brought up right by his parents, respectful. Hey, Mr. Tony, hey, talk. And everybody just had to have one personality that you just felt. You fell in love with the kid. The kid was a good, sound kid. So you got a lot of people asking the question, what's going on with this? Then you get these other kind of, you're making it sound like it's okay. So guess what? For $25,000, you could go out and kill somebody tomorrow. That's all you have to do is put up $25,000 bail, and you'll be walking the streets into your raiment, because it could take up to 2 years to go to trial.
Right. Exactly.
We're probably not going to go to trial now for at least 13, 14 months. That's area.
Right. And that's what's not fair. Right. And so he's, out walking about, living his life, going to work, as if nothing happened. Really, his life has not been interrupted too much. Meanwhile, the family, the parents of CJ Hackett's lives have been devastated, turned upside down completely, and never will be the same. And this guy, maybe he'll get 7 years, but we, you and I both know that won't happen.
I asked the assistant DA. Her name is Liz Shoemaker, I believe her name is. I might be pronouncing the last name wrong, so please don't hold me to that. But I said, listen, be straight with me. I said, you got 3 major charges. I said, I thought there was a bunch of other charges coming too. He's like, well, we decided not to go after them. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we really couldn't prove that he tried to fix the car right away. You know, there was duct tape and all that, new paint. I'm like, he could have done it a week before that. So it would have been hard for us to prove that. I'm like, wow.
Well, they can investigate rather than try to prove that the kids were bad kids, right? They can go out and find out where he purchased the paint. When?
Well, yeah, too much work. It's too much work for these guys. You know, so, you know, and I have a lot of friends who are cops. I mean, I grew up in this neighborhood all my life, you know, and, you know, so I'm like, oh, really? I said, listen, tell me the truth. I just want to know. Let's stop the bullshit right now. What do you think? Because he's not going to get that. Unless you get a hard judge who's looking to make a name for himself, you're probably not going to get it. You know, 7 years is for somebody who's a repeat offender for DWI and all these other things. You're probably realistically looking about no more than 2.5 years.
Wow.
I said, wow, are you kidding me? And I said to her, I said, listen, I'm done. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I'll keep on posting and I'll still try to be the voice for CJ. But me, I'm not going to cooperate with you guys no more. I was the go-to person between me and the family because the mother, of course, you know, any mother would be very upset if she can't keep her tongue. You know, she wants to fight for her son. But, you know, I was like, believe it or not, you know, shocked a lot of people. I actually was the person of reasoning. I'm usually the opposite guy, you know, but, you know, this hit close to me. You know, I'm like, this could have been my son too. So I said to him, I said, I'm done. You know, so I said to him, and we brought it up. I said, you know, I got pictures of CJ, video of CJ in my house, almost 35 minutes, 40 minutes right before it happened. You know, you was just overheard telling the parents in the hallway that, you know, you have to understand also CJ had alcohol in his system. You know, so as a parent, I don't think I would have realized that he was drunk. You know, I sat there and I talked to this kid. You know, we were laughing, we were giggling. She goes, oh, I didn't know about the footage. I was like, you guys didn't know about the footage? I said, I've been telling you guys from fucking day one. I have my house. You can't get 2 feet in front of my house without being seen. Inside and out. I said, I have first floor cameras. I got cameras outside. I got him in the house talking to me. I got him in the backyard playing with his freaking bike. I said, oh, whoa. You know, I don't think we know about that. I said, well, Detective Accountability knew about it. That's why when he came to my house, he didn't want to talk in front of my house. We had to walk down halfway down the block.
But and it's sad because it seems like they're victimizing the parents, you know, all over again by trying to, you know, suggest that he was drunk or that he had been drinking, you know, and then they asking people those questions. In a way, it's almost like they're just asking those questions to kind of put it out there into the community that he may have been drinking, right? It's a muddy kind of things up.
I think they're trying to make it a 50-50, 50-50 act. That's what it comes down to. Because
even when even if he only gets 2.5 years, right? But he comes out, if, you know, people think that he's this murderer, this monster that just left the scene and didn't care, he's cold-blooded, then, you know, people are going to look at him a certain way, and they don't want that for him in the community, right? So, you know, they want him to look like, oh, it was just an accident, and this kid was reckless also. He was drinking, and a bunch of wild kids, right? And you know, and that's what happened. And we, you know, just a bad situation.
And it's unfortunate as it is, you know. And it's not only Yonkers. This could happen in the Bronx. This could happen in East Chester. It's just that, you know, it's a bad situation for a lot of people. You know, I never wanted to be in politics. I never wanted to try politics. You know, even though I got probably the biggest mouth out there. But now with all this stuff that's going on, you know, I just told my sister the other day, you know, you know, it needs to be some type of change here.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? And I'm thinking now about running against David Tuckahoe for his assemblyman position. So, you know, as a regular person, because, you know, Yonkers, I've always loved Yonkers. Yonkers is my life.
Yeah.
You know, I went to the military, I came home, I came back to Yonkers. I could have gone anywhere. But, you know, I've lived in Yonkers all my life. You know, and it's crazy the way things are now.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, and and listen, I mean, I don't agree with everybody yelling and screaming about this, about that. But you know what? Honestly, you know what? We made Yonkers what it is. We are the people who voted for him. We're the ones to put him in there. Listen, it is what it is. He's the devil I know. You know this. You've heard that saying before, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Next time he'll be 10 times worse. And does it really affect me that he's running for a fourth term? No, it doesn't affect me. I get up every day, put my pants on, go to work and bust my ass every day. Come home. You don't fucking sign my paychecks. So I don't give a fuck what he does. But that's why I try to tell people I'm trying to keep this away from that. It's not about the politics in this. This is about a young boy losing his life.
It's about getting justice for CJ and justice for his parents who deserve it. Justice for your son, justice for you and your family who deserve it. That's what it's about. And unfortunately, it is about politics because what's hindering CJ and family members from getting the justice that he deserves is politics. It's nepotism, and this connections of family, friends that are protected or covered up for. And it's unfortunate, and that's why we have to speak out. And even though, like you, I don't have to give a shit. I can just leave and be like, whatever. Mike Spano doesn't sign my checks either, right? And I don't want him to, and never, But I have to speak out. And I care. And enough is enough.
Listen, everybody has to do what's best for them and their families. And I just wanted to make sure. That's why I went on yesterday on the Voice.
No, I appreciate it.
I want everybody to know the truth. Listen. There's so many. Some people are like, oh, he got sentenced yesterday on Friday. No, he didn't get sentenced. Too many people talk. That was just a primary. They read his new charge. They dropped all the charges, and actually, I don't know if they dropped. They upgraded the charges.
Right. He has manslaughter, leaving the scene of an accident and not reporting injury.
Yeah. So it was 3 major. What's called manslaughter, leaving the scene of an accident that caused a fatality, and DWI. Those are the 3 charges.
Right.
So, so people are like, oh, he got sentenced. No, he didn't get sentenced. Oh, he's on the house arrest. No, he's not on the house arrest. He's walking the streets like you and me, like everybody else. He's got an ankle bracelet because just in case if he decides to flee the country, they'll know he took off the thing and he's leaving the country. That was one of the biggest concerns.
Wow.
For some reason, the last minute, the judges got switched on us. Wow. We were expecting the same judge I saw him last time, but I don't know. This time we got a new judge.
And it's like you said, it's going to be in maybe 18 months or more before he goes to trial. So, he'll have some time.
It'll be at least a year. They're telling us, listen, I'm trying to go on with my life too. I'm like, oh, can I plan vacations? What we're going to go? So like, listen, we're still seeing cases from 2019 right now. So we think you have some time. So this guy gets to walk around for another year. It's already been 6 months, almost 6 months. He's going to walk around another year before he even sees inside the jail. All right, he spent a week and a half or whatever. The only good thing is about this that comes out, which I explained to not only my son, but all the kids in the neighborhood and the parents, is that when he does get sentenced, it will be a full stretch, not like time served. So if he would have stayed in with bail, he would have got time already served.
Right.
So he only had what in jail, if that. So So when he does the stretch, and if it's over a year, he won't be over here in Rikers. He's going to be going up the line because then they want to keep him. I think like on the year over here in Rikers or over here by Rochester, and then above a year, he's going to find out what it really means to be in jail. He's not going to be having any friends who he plays hockey with, up there to protect him.
And I just hope that, the time that, the amount of time that passes before he, goes to trial from now to the time that he goes to trial doesn't allow for, people to forget. And I know you won't forget in your family, but others to forget, and for them to try to quietly, get some lesser sentence, even less than 2 years. I mean, even maybe probation, right? Like I've seen in cases that I've spoken about where individuals got probation because of the judges being corrupt. And so God forbid that happens, so, and then you keep talking about it, like I'm sure you will, and reminding people, right? And hopefully, yeah, and maybe we can come out and make some changes. And why I say about coming out to vote is because if you get new elected officials in there, maybe by the time this goes to trial, maybe it could change. Maybe they can demand that they give him more than the 2.5 years sentence that the DA now is saying he may get.
Well, like I said, it's just like I brought it up the chain of command. I'm getting to write a report now. I'm I'm trying to get the actually the DA involved, Minnie, whatever her name is, and because I thought that we need to get a special prosecutor on the case. I don't trust the guy who's. I don't trust the detectives. I don't trust the freaking DA. They all have links. You know, they all somehow been linked together. They all work for the city of Yonkers. Yeah. There's nothing about city, but you know, you go to a club. If I belong to a club, you belong to the club, and all of a sudden, you know, you got about 15, 20 people. You know, there's too much coincidence there.
Right.
You know, some people have been accused. Some people sort of said, "Oh, listen, all right, I know this. His father could have been my father's partner on the force, or they could have been working in the same precinct at the time." You know, but I should excuse myself and hand this case off to somebody else.
Right.
Nobody made that decision yet. You know, where to walk away from it.
And unfortunately, Mimi Roca, you know, the Westchester County DA is also linked to, you know, Save Yonkers and the Spanos and even the developers out here who funded her campaign a lot. So, you know, she's also going to take orders from people here in Yonkers. That's a fact, unfortunately. So, you know, it's very sad. And this is why I wanted to talk about this nepotism and family and friend stuff, because, I mean, ultimately why we have to speak out about it is so when incidents like this happen, you know, people get fair justice. You know, people don't have to worry about cops or DAs and prosecutors and judges conspiring to, you know, keep people who deserve to be in jail out of jail. Well, Tony, is anything else you'd like to let it, you know, people know before?
I just wanted to appreciate you taking the call.
No, absolutely. Thank you for calling.
I just wanted the people to know that, you know, listen, you know, it is a tragic for all families involved, you know, and the people who want to defend them, you know, Dolan, and, you know, say, you know, he's a good guy and all that. Listen, if he's that good guy, you know, maybe you should suggest to him that, you know, maybe he should come out publicly and you know, pretend that he cares and, you know, show some type of sympathy, you know. It would help the family a little bit, you know. But, you know, to sit there cold stalled, you know, walking around like you have no worries in the world, it kind of worries all of us. Like, you know, who's pulling the strings there now?
Right. Absolutely. And you're right. And that's what I say that to people all the time. You know, just validating somebody's feelings goes a long way. Even if you don't agree, right? Just validating their feelings goes a long way. And the fact that he has not done that, and you say he's cold and, you know, kind of stone cold in how he walked into the courtroom, you know, maybe he's not the good guy that just had something bad happen to him. And I don't know, I'm just saying, but, you know, your actions, you know, after this incident happened says a lot, right? And, you know, obviously you're...
Well, not only that, you know, you walk into the courtroom now 3 times, well, first time was in handcuffs. The next 2 times you walk in there where, no, like when I tell you, stone cold, like no care in the world. And then, you know, by now, you think you're going to be fighting for your life. You're not going out and get yourself a real defensive attorney. You know, you're relying on a public defender. Why are you so confident? Right. It's like his confidence is there. Right. Like, oh, I don't need a paper. You know, what does he know that we don't know? You know, because I know if I got into trouble, you know, I got in trouble when I was a kid for the stupid petty shit. Never did a jail time. But whenever I did, you know, I called my father, would call George Nader. You know, George Nader would get me out of trouble. You know, we go in front of George, we got slapped in the face, you know, don't do this ever again. You know, it's not doing anything like that.
Right.
So it's like, why I would think if my life is on the line, that I could go up to 7 years of hard time, you know, I think I'd get the best lawyer money could buy.
Right.
Like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, that's another problem. That's something I've spoken about here also is the judges that, you know, they are appointed by people here in Yonkers. You know, Spano makes the appointments, bottom line. So a lot of these judges will start in the Yonkers City Court, then they'll go up into the Supreme Court, up to White Plains. And so they always will have that tie to Yonkers and, you know, the connection to the person who appointed them. You know, like recently, Karen Beltran was appointed to city court judge after taking Elena Goldberg's place, who was appointed also and who waited her turn, right? I mean, that's a fact. Her own mother said she has to wait her turn, right? So it's not about, you know, people getting hired or getting the position based on their, you know, qualifications, their experience. It's all about relationships. And so then when the time comes where they have to perform, like now, when they have to do the right thing on behalf of CJ and his family, that connection to Yonkers is going to hinder, you know, true justice for CJ, unfortunately. Yep. And so
at the end of the day, and I'll just sign off by saying this, that, you know, at the end of the day, all we want is justice for CJ. I want him to rest in peace, and and prayers out to his family. Continue to stay strong. And hopefully we'll get the justice that we need.
And I hope you guys do. And I'll definitely be supporting you and the family and CJ in that justice. My podcast, today, I never had no intentions of saying anything negative about CJ or his family. In fact, just, showing that, there is special treatment, special consideration being given to the individual because of his connections, and his father's, former connections or ties and friendships.
Well,
and
we could. Let's make it. Let's make it record clear. These are all accusations. Nothing's been proven yet.
Right.
Listen, I'm like a half full kind of guy. Is it half full, half empty the glass? If you connect the dots, that's what it tells you. And the way they're acting is beginning to appear that way. But I believe in this justice system, and I'm hoping that we will get justice, and the family will, prayers to them and keep them strong, and that we'll get the justice that we need for CJ.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate you coming on and talking and sharing your story.
And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I wish the best to the family and your family as well, and your son, but because he's also a victim as well in this. So and I wish the best for you guys. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. That was Tony Solari, father of the friend CJ Hackett, who was killed by Stephen Dolan when he was driving drunk in last August after leaving a couple bars where he was attending a darts tournament, right? And he's a city employee who left the scene of the crime and was picked up 3 days later. Although, as you heard Tony say there, that when he was with officers the night that it happened, he heard police officers say, "We got the guy." It came through the walkie-talkie, and I'm sure they did. I'm sure some young cops who were out there like, we're going to get this guy, right? Because I'm sure that was probably fun. I mean, not sad for the story, but, as a police officer, I'm just putting myself in their shoes. They got to look for a suspect, right? You're new to the thing. We're going to get this guy, right? And how many white vans are really going to be out driving around 1:30, 2:15 in the morning, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that it probably was him. And he made some calls. He said, "Hey, my dad is so-and-so, and I know so-and-so. Hold up. Let's call them real quick." And then when the detective was with Tony and all the guys, officers came through the walkie-talkie saying they had him, he said the detective stepped out of the room. Where did he go? See, like, I'm not saying it happened for a fact. What I like to do, though, is put it out there. I like to connect dots, right? Like an investigator would, right? And like a detective would, right? And so what did he say when he left? When he left that room, who did he call? And did they set up a plan to, help him, reduce his, his consequences here by trying to give him some time to get the alcohol and even maybe the drugs, because sources have alleged to us that the individual did partake in cocaine use, and that's why I said that. And just in my, from my story with a police officer I once knew who said that, he did it. He said it comes out of your system in 3 days, right? So that's why I just thought that automatically. And, it's one thing to be drunk, right? And you'll get that DUI. But if you have now illegal substance like cocaine in your system also, then now you're facing drug charges, and that could be worse. And so did they give him time to, get that stuff out of his system? Right. And put a plan into action that would help him, not really see the most severe consequences for his actions that night. Yes, good things, or I should say bad things, happen to good people. Right. But we're talking about flat tires. Okay. Like when I hit a pothole and I got a flat tire, that's when bad things happen to good people. Hitting a 16-year-old boy because you've been out drinking, you said you blacked out. The fact that he said he blacked out and he was driving, it doesn't matter where CJ was on the road. The fact that you drove the car and you was in a blackout mode, that's it. You are a reckless individual, right? Someone that, decided to do something that you knew was illegal, and ended up killing a boy, and then you left. And you tried to cover it up. And you had help, I'm sure. I'm sure almost. Like, I'm not saying it was true, but I'm sure. I'm willing to bet on it. This is Yonkers, folks. And many people have gotten away with things here. And so you left, you went to work like nothing happened, while this family was now planning a funeral for their 16-year-old son and loved one. I mean, a good person could not stand to be at work while he knows a family's out there planning the funeral of their child that he killed. That would eat me alive. I would have to turn myself in. People would know. I'm guilty. I did. I'm sorry. I would be begging that family to forgive me because I know that I didn't do it on purpose. I know Stephen didn't go out there to kill somebody that night. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But he did. And then he tried to cover it up. And he waited to eventually, they felt it was time to arrest him. He got arrested and he has not, shown any sign of remorse. So I don't know if that statement is true, what the detective said, that bad things happen to good people. Not in this situation. That doesn't apply here, detective. Shout out to the great police officers who caught him right away, right? Do the right thing. Send me an email. Tell me exactly how it went down and that you guys actually caught him, all right? I would love it. Do the right thing. Justice for CJ, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. Thank you to Tony Solari for calling me tonight. I appreciate that. Great podcast tonight. Very informative. And again, folks, it's crazy that they're trying to victim, shame. Like they're trying to blame CJ and, Tony's son, trying to, insinuate that they were drinking or that they might be drug addicts and this band of misfits that, were so reckless that the, accident was a result of that and not the reckless behavior of a city employee who's connected here. That's messed up. Putting those rumors on. I think that's what they intentionally did by going around asking whether or not he was drinking that night. Why? Why would you ask that? What does that have to do with anything, right? I mean, what does it have to, we know it. The guy was drinking. He said it. He blacked out. He hit the kid. 17 drinks. He ran off. He wasn't picked up till 3 days later. What else do you need to know? Guilty. Guilty. And we're going to leave you in jail until CJ's mom decides it's okay for you to come out. And if that never happens, then so be it. And that's how justice should be served. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics Unfiltered. Thank you for joining me, folks. Have a happy week coming up. It's Monday tomorrow. Monday! What's coming up here soon? Politics. Folks, while we don't want to make this incident political, the fact remains that CJ is not going to get the justice he serves because of the elected officials that we have in office now. So we must make it political and vote these people out so we can get true justice for CJ, true justice for everyone here in the city of Yonkers, make things a bit more equal, and get this corruption up out of here because enough is enough. We must vote for the mayor, not for the mayor, but we must vote in the mayor election. Right? We must come out. Democrats, it's really up to you guys. Let's come out and vote in June. All right? I'm going to be on it. Let's wait for some surprises that be coming up. I'm up out of here. I can't wait. I'm excited. Valentine's is almost here. Anyone without a Valentine? Anyone?
Freddie wins.
So I'll be celebrating Valentine's Day with my wife. This is probably Valentine number 26, 27. How many, babe? And it never gets old. I love it. I love it. And you know what's great about being with somebody for so long? That you don't have to buy any gifts.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
I was like, babe, what do you want? I don't want nothing. What do you want? I don't want nothing either. All right, cool.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
My wife got what she needed. I have what I need, and that's each other and our kids at the end of the day. Folks, I love you. Thank you for watching. This is Basement Politics. I am Freddie Vasquez, and
hopefully, you know.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins.
That's right.
Thank you for watching.
Fatality.
I am Freddie Vasquez. Peace out.
No!